Chapter 3. Charles sat with Cooper on his lap, watching the two men on stage sing a silly duet in which they tried to top the other over and over again. Their deep voices rang through the room as they belted out the song. Mrs. Davis pounded the piano chord, sneaking a smile and a wink at Charles every so often. Charles petted Cooper's soft ear. "How did they do that?" he asked the pup. He knew the men were actors, but they seemed so natural and so confident. He could not ever imagine feeling that comfortable on stage. With final flourish of notes, Mrs. Davis brought the song on end. And the men struck their final poses and then stomped off to opposite sides of the stage. "Perfect!" shouted Mr. Green. "Fabulous!" The men popped out of their wings, grinning. They took silly bows while the rest of the cast applauded. "That's the kind of energy I want to see here," said Mr. Green. "Don't save it for performances, people. Bring it here! 100% every single day!" He looked down at the papers in his hands. "Okay, let's go on to scene 2. Smith family Palmer, actors on stage." Charles hugged Cooper. "I have to put you down now, okay?" he whispered into the thick, rough fur around the puppy's neck. Cooper squirmed around so that he could lick Charles' cheeks. "Can I come with you?" Charles gave the puppy one last hug and sat him down on the floor, handing his leash to Mrs. Davis. "He'll be fine," said Mrs. Davis. "And so will you." She gave him a bored smile and just one last wink. Charles climbed the stairs up to the stage, leaving his backpack with the script in it on his chair. After all, he only had 3 lines in the scene. He should be able to remember them. Mr. Green moved busily among the actors, placing people where he wanted them. He sat Charles and Maribel on a bench at a stage right. "When we have our set full, this will be a couch. But for now, you'll just have to pretend." By now, Charles knew that set meant all the things: furniture, pretend wall scenery, that made the play look like it was really happening in a real place. "Okay," said Mr. Green. Mr. Green stepped back down to the audience. "Let's run for the scene." Mirabel had the first line. She turned to Charles. "I've never seen Papa so angry before," she said. "What do you suppose is the matter?" Charles opened his mouth. No words came out. He twisted his hands together. He closed his eyes tight, as if that would help him remember his line. The room was so quiet that Charles could hear Mr. Green's frustrated sigh. Finally it came to him. "I don't know," he said, with his eyes still closed, "but it has something to do with a man named Ebenezer Scrooge." "Rah!" Charles opened his eyes and saw Mr. Green staring at him, hands on hips. "Ebenezer Scrooge?" the director asked. "I think you got your stories mixed up." His lips twitched, and suddenly he looked like he was smiling. "Kind of funny, really." He chuckled. He then let out a booming laugh. "Ha, ha, 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 ha!" Everyone else in the room joined in. Charles wasn't sure if they were either laughing at him or with him. In fact, he wasn't even sure what the joke was until Maribel whispered, "Ebenezer Scrooge is that guy from A Christmas Story. You know, the one with the ghost of Christmas past and Tiny Tim and all that," she said. Charles felt his face getting hot again. They were laughing at him. The character in the story was Ebenezer Wetmore. He knew that. He'd just forgotten. Okay, people, said Mr. Green. The laughter finally died down. Let's move on again with the scene. We'll back up and take those lines again. This time Charles got his lines right. But he flubbed the line after that. When Mr. Green told him to stand up and move to stage left for his next line, he moved to stage right by mistake. Why couldn't he stop messing up? Let's take 5, people! Mr. Green sounded tired. That was one feeder phrase Charles had learned early on. It meant that it was time for a 5-minute break on which you can go and use the bathroom, go outside to get a breath of fresh air, or look over your script again or whatever. But Charles knew what he wanted to use his 5 minutes for. Cooper! He headed straight for the piano. Want me to take you out for a minute? Charles asked. Maybe he has to pee. Sure, said Mrs. Davis. Maybe I'll come with you. Outside they watched as Charles Cooper trundled along on his short little legs, checking out the bushes that towered over him. Even the grass came up with to his knees. Charles felt his mood lit. Oh, he's so cute, he said to Mrs. Davis. And he's really mellow. Not many puppies are like that. Just don't settle down that way. He's very smart too, she said. The man who originally rescued him already told me that he knows 10 tricks. I'd really hate to give him up. But it's just not fair to leave a puppy to leave him home all the time. My Aunt Amanda runs a doggy daycare, Charles told her. Maybe you can take him there. I wish, said Mrs. Davis. But the trouble is, I just can't afford it. I'd be spending money on learning on just dog sitting. Let me talk to my mom when she picks me up, said Charles. Maybe if she meets Cooper, maybe she'll say we can foster him. We would really take good care of him. We fostered a lot of puppies, so we have tons of experience. Wow, said Mrs. Davis. That would be... Break's over, called one of the other actors from the doorway. Charles was hoping that Mr. Green would choose to move in on another scene, but one that he was not in. But instead, the director called the same actors upstage. We need to get this scene polished, he said. Let's give it one more try, Charles groaned. He bent down to give Cooper a goodbye pat on the head. Mrs. Davis went over to Mr. Green and whispered something into his ear. The director raised his eyebrows, then looked at Charles and Cooper. Really? He asked Mrs. Davis. You think that could work? She nodded. Well, I suppose it's a try, said Mr. Green. Charles, bring that dog on stage with you.